And we'll get going. We are now broadcasting, so I'm going to get us going in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, good friends, to another episode of Dome and Bedlam. My name is Nathan Bishop. I am one of the podcasters here at This Old Podcast. I'm joined by one of my usual suspects, David Skiba in, wait, you don't live in Snohomish.
No, I don't. No.
What's it called where you live?
Snoqualmie.
It's very early here, and I'm very tired. David, how are you?
Not in Snohomish, so I'm doing great.
Yeah, I wouldn't be caught dead. Well, we also have we're recording very early this morning because we have a really special guest. A little bit different vibe for us today. David and I are both big fans of the Revolutions podcast and the History of Rome podcast. The gentleman that does that, Mike Duncan, is joining us. He is also an author, a New York Times bestseller. You can find his book, The Storm Before the Storm, The Beginning of the End of the Roman Republic, in hardback, paperback, Kindle, and I think audiobook. Is that right, Mike?
I did record an audiobook. Yes, I did.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, man. You're joining us from Paris.
I am in Paris, France, as we speak. I am at the American Library in Paris right now.
Wow. Using an institution of higher public learning for the worst possible reason.
Yes, I actually kicked somebody out of this room so that I could record this baseball podcast.
Ben Franklin would be proud, to be fair.
Yeah.
Well, full disclosure, Mike and the podcast have been talking about doing this off and on before you even moved from Wisconsin, I think it was, to go back out to Paris, and then life got in the way. We're here perfectly timed in the offseason to do a all-time Mariners draft. We are going to take turns each drafting an all-time Mariner where we must all draft a starting pitcher, full positional group, and a DH, and then a relief pitcher. But before that, I feel like, Mike, the pressing question for anyone who's listening who's maybe not familiar with your show, which would be or anybody who is maybe familiar with your show, the age-old question would be, what comes first, the Mariner fandom or the fascination with the history of underrepresented people overthrowing a tyrannical regime?
The Mariner fandom precludes most everything. Yeah,
so
I've been
in the area, is that correct?
Yeah, I've always been like a big history buff, even when I was a kid. Right, it was my favorite subject in school, even going back to like elementary school. But I know that the first Mariner games that I was going to was 1985, were the first games that I went to. Yeah, I've been with the franchise for a long time. I grew up in Redmond. I went to Redmond High School. I went to Western Washington University. And I have been a Mariner fan now that's over 30 years that I have been rooting for these stupid bastards.
Including what, four playoff seasons?
Yeah, I went to, so just so you guys know, like in 95, so I was 15 years old in 95, and I went to game, I think 4 of the ALDS against that Yankee series. So I was there for that. And then I went to 2 of the ALCS series against the Indians. I was there when that season finally ended. Game 6, Jay Buhner grounded out to shortstop. I remember that quite vividly. I went to 1 playoff game in 2000 against the Yankees that the Mariners actually won that game.
Wow.
So the Mariners are 3-1 in playoff games that I have personally attended.
And that's pretty much the franchise record.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, I've been to roughly 50% of all Mariner playoff games.
I'm glad you brought up that game 4 in the 95 series, because that kind of leads into something else I know that we had talking about, because that's the famous game where Edgar Martinez takes a pitch about 6 inches away from his wiener and hits a home run down the left field foul line off of Jack McDowell. Yes. And then he also hits a grand slam off of John Wetland, I think in the 8th or something, to blow that one open. And we were talking about Edgar making the Hall of Fame. Seems like a big deal.
This is a thing that has recently happened.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Were you able to follow? I know you're really busy, obviously, and you're also literally across the world. Is it something you felt like you were able to still pay attention to? Like, did it have meaning for you all the way over there?
When it comes to Edgar getting into the Hall of Fame?
Yeah. Following that.
Yeah, man. I stayed. It was midnight over here when they made the announcement, and I stayed up for it. Because Edgar Martinez is, I think at this point you just have to say he's the greatest Mariner in history. And like I was telling my wife this, like if we didn't and God knows I love Alvin Davis. I do love Alvin Davis. He was of the team that I originally started rooting for was like Mark Langston and Alvin Davis and Harold Reynolds and those guys. So I love Alvin Davis, but the fact that he is Mr. Mariner and like Edgar Martinez is not Mr. Mariner is a little bit weird, because I think Edgar really is, more than anybody else. It's like him and Felix right now when it comes down to like truly, like they stuck with the team, like their whole careers with one team, what they meant to the franchise. I don't think there's anybody, even Griffey, who means more to the franchise than Edgar does. And obviously he's a Hall of Famer. Obviously he's earned it. And 2 or 3 years ago, it just looked like he was going to stall out at 50%. And then it would just be like the Veterans Committee, like 15 years from now, would finally put him in. So the fact that in this final year, that he did go over the top. I mean, I wasn't going to miss that for the world. So definitely I stayed up. And then I was up until like 1:30, working around on Twitter and just generally celebrating.
Doing a victory lap.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just so happy for, and that call with him, because there's the thing where like, they call the person and they say like, oh, you made the Hall of Fame, and like, most of these that you see, it's like people breaking down in tears, like Mariano Rivera, like his whole family, they went bananas, and Edgar's like, thank you, okay, talk to you later.
It was so quintessential.
It's literally exactly who he is.
Yeah, just how he is all the time. It's just perfect.
Just thank you. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. See you. Okay. Like what?
No, like he was trying to hurry them off the phone.
Guys, I gotta go.
Yeah,
I gotta make dinner.
Yeah, but it was. I'm so thrilled for him, and I'm thrilled for us as Mariner fans that we got, in this off season of, whatever this off season has been.
Yeah,
that we got this one piece of genuinely good and awesome, awesomeness.
Yeah, and I think it's. I don't want to get distracted too much by it. We have a whole draft to do, but I think there's something. It's not real, but fandom isn't real. We kind of just talk ourselves into all this stuff every single day, and like he's not the first guy to go in there with a Mariner cap. That's obviously Junior, but like you were saying, Mike, he's a different kind of Mariner, and I think that there's more because of the public campaign that was necessary to get him in there. There's this feeling of validation, like not just for Edgar, but for us and our fandom. It kind of affirms our memory of him in a way that, like, of course, Griffey was a Hall of Famer. He was near unanimous. Not quite as good a player as Mariano Rivera, of course.
Obviously, a couple of percentage points shy of Mariano Rivera.
Yes, of course. That's the greatest failed start
in terms of talent and impact on the game.
But it does feel it feels very like this is ours in a way that I mean, Griffey was too, but not really the same, because everybody.
And I think that's true. Edgar is ours and nobody else's.
It's a pretty cool thing. I think I've even heard, and in the interest of the podcast and the fact that we're terrible historians, I don't have a citation, but I think I've actually heard Alvin Davis, who is by all accounts also a wonderful human being, say that he thinks of Edgar Martinez as Mr. Mariner. Like,
really? That's amazing. Alvin Davis is like a really, really cool dude. So I actually don't ever want to take it away from him.
Right.
That moniker of Mr. Mariner, because I think Alvin Davis is rad. But what a good guy.
He's an incredibly good dude. So
he's Mr. Mariner in the sense that they literally didn't matter until Alvin Davis was a Mariner.
Right.
Yeah. Right. He was the first thing. Well, I mean, Langston had a couple.
He had
a couple of strikeout records.
Langston was a great pitcher back in the 80s. Yeah, and
Langston was fucking awesome. I might draft him.
So point of order before we get down to this draft, is there anything, Mike, that you're wanting to discuss before we get buried into drafting? I saw you mention something about some god awful trivia question that's going to make.
Yeah. Okay, so here's my Mariners Hall of Fame trivia question.
Ooh.
And it is this: it is how many baseball Hall of Famers have worn a Mariners uniform?
Oh, wow.
And then we have to name them, I assume.
Right. Now, we could sit here and spend 15 minutes with you guys trying to guess who they are. Mm-hmm. So go quick. Like, who can you name? Right.
Okay, Randy.
Yeah.
Junior, Edgar.
Yeah.
Ricky Henderson.
Yep.
Ricky Henderson.
Can you tell me how many more we have? We just named 4.
Yep.
There are 3 that everybody knows, and then 1 that is my trick question.
Oh, that are left. Okay.
We've got Gaylord Perry.
Of course.
Yes.
And oh no, I think I know the other one, and I'm not happy about it. David, do you know it?
Oh,
you've documented this man in print online extensively.
Oh, Goosage or Gossage?
Yeah.
Goosage.
Yeah, Goosage.
Yeah, Goosage. Yeah, that's what his name. That's definitely what his name is.
I mean, he's just double goose to me.
Yeah, so Goosage pitched like 50 innings in '94 for the team, and then there's one other one that everybody knows.
Like most unsettling baseball cards that exists.
What is the other one everyone knows? It's another pitcher, isn't it?
No, he was a manager.
Oh,
the 60s. Dodgers base stealing.
Yeah, no, Maury Wills did not make the Hall of Fame.
He did not. Lou Piniello's not in.
No.
David, it's not John McLaren. I'm going to tell you that right now.
No, it was not John McLaren.
And it's not Eric Wedge.
No, it's not Eric Wedge.
Shoot, this is going to be predating this is going to be predating my time. I think this is
the answer is Dick Williams.
Oh,
wow! He was not honored for his tenure with the Mariners. He was honored for everything that he did before he became a grumpy old manager with the Mariners in mid to late '80s. So that's the answer. Like if you go to like Baseball Reference, their Hall of Fame page, there's 7 players that are listed who are in the Hall of Fame who were officially with the Mariners. So that's great.
Who's who?
But the answer is actually 8. This is my fun trick question.
Oh no!
And because in the 1979 All-Star game, okay, that was held at the Kingdome, Reggie Jackson showed up, and he didn't bring his uniform. He didn't bring any of like his stuff. He just showed up, and they needed to take a team picture of the 1979 American League All-Star team, and Reggie Jackson did not have a uniform, so they stuck him in a Mariners home uniform for that picture.
Wow.
So I think the answer is 8.
Okay.
You can also claim Reggie Jackson.
I'll gladly claim
because if you Google the 1979 American League All-Star team photo, Reggie Jackson is sitting there in like this obviously just like pulled on Mariners home uniform. It's really funny.
I see it. I'm seeing it on the internet right now. So it must be real.
This is not a lie.
Yeah, wow. That's incredible. Oh my gosh. I don't know how I didn't know about this. What a interesting thing. He had a few good years left in him too in the 80s, so that would have been a fun thing.
Yeah, he really did.
Wow.
So that's the answer. 8 Hall of Famers have that's you have to phrase it that certain way. So
have worn a Mariners uniform.
Have worn a Seattle Mariners.
Yeah, and I can't believe we didn't get Dick Williams. That was actually what I wanted to think of, but I didn't think he was a Hall of Famer because.
Yeah, I'm mostly sad that I forgot Gossage made the Hall of Fame.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I mean, he was good. I mean, he's he's lame. Because he's the classic like, oh, now that I'm in, like nobody else should be able to get in. Even though I myself am an extremely suspect borderline pick. Yeah. I mean, it'd be like if Harold Baines was like, you know what, these buggers ain't good enough.
Yeah.
For my Hall of Fame. Like Bobby Grich is like twice as good as you. I don't understand what's happening right now.
Not my Hall of Fame.
Not my Hall of Fame.
By all accounts, also though, Harold Baines is a phenomenally nice and cool and respectful human being. So I shouldn't take pot shots at Harold Baines. I'm just glad Edgar got in this because if Harold Baines had gone in the Hall of Fame and not Edgar Martinez,
dude, that's what I was worried about.
These Gilets Jaunes guys in Paris would have had nothing on the writing that one lone American is currently burning down half of Paris.
And
we don't know why.
In an unbuttoned Mariners 1993 home vest.
Yes. Oh God, yeah, that would have been terrible, and that was what I was worried about too, because Baines is just so fringy.
Frank Thomas made it in, right?
Yeah, Frank Thomas.
Yeah, so that would have been for me. That would have been a bigger insult.
I think I think there's a very real part of it that everybody knew they were going to elect Ortiz, and they all knew that if they elected Ortiz, not Edgar.
It would be pretty lame if the guy who won the Edgar Martinez Award
right.
gets in.
Yeah.
Well,
and
it's nice too, and this should be the last thing we say about this, but that I can now unreservedly support David Ortiz for the Hall of Fame.
Yes.
Because before this it was a little like, okay, but like, let's take care of Edgar first.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get into it with Red Sox fans and they'd be like, well, he's got a higher slugging percentage. Like, I don't care. Just put Edgar in first and then David Ortiz can go in and it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. Just do it. And now I can unreservedly like root for David Ortiz to go into the Hall of Fame, which he should. He was amazing. Of course he should go into the Hall of Fame.
Or the frustration with the Hall of Fame, making you root against obvious Hall of Famers to get justice for you.
I'm not into that. So I'm glad this is over and done with. And I wish I could be there, but I can't. So yeah.
Duty calls, because you are just really quick plug, not that anybody who listens to our podcast wouldn't have already known this, but you are in Paris to write your second book. Is that correct?
Right. I am writing a biography of the Marquis de Lafayette.
And you have a loose publication date that you're aiming for that?
I'm hoping to have it published in the spring of 2021. So I've got a little ways to go. But I'm already that's actually what I was doing in the hour or so before we hopped on this podcast was going through one of.
Well, let's draft an all-time Mariner team. Again, the rules you can pick any player you want that's not off the board. Once the player's off the board, it's off. I have to pick an entire team. Are you guys ready to do this?
Yes.
Yeah. And we decided there's no playtime limit to the Mariner, right?
Correct.
No, you can. There's no real.
You can draft Reggie Jackson in right field if you want to. Technically, he wore Mariners uniform.
Yes, we've already laid the groundwork there of the caveat is good. So, in the interest of being good hosts, we're going to let Mike pick first.
Yeah, are we just going to snake this draft?
What's that?
Like we'll go Mike, me, you, and then you get a pick again. And then
we don't need to snake it. We'll just go around in circles.
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. That's good. There are no rules here.
Okay.
So, Mike, you get the first pick. In the very first pick of the very official Dome and Bedlam Fantasy Mariner Baseball Draft Palooza, who would be your first selection?
I'm going to pick Edgar Martinez.
Oh. Ta-da! And then I can just pump the audio in from the last 10 minutes of the podcast here to explaining
why I almost wouldn't have done that, but now after we spend so much time talking about it, I'm like, I don't feel like I can take anybody else. But this is really this is favorite Mariners, not best Mariners.
Okay.
And this is one of those things where because there's going to be some weird picks that I have in here. But it just so happens that Edgar Martinez is one of my favorite players, full stop. He's one of the best players, full stop. And it would be silly for me to not use the very first pick in the draft to, at this moment, take Edgar Martinez. So he's my DH.
All right. So I'm going to go at third base, Adrian Beltre, who is my all-time Mariner.
And you are
he's your all-time favorite Mariner.
So as a child, it was Edgar. And then when I came to age and maturity and my eyes opened to the world, it was Adrian Beltre by far.
Yeah. Full disclosure, David's much younger than you and I, Mike.
That's completely fine.
Yes.
I'm glad because I can't change it.
Why Adrian Beltre?
Defend yourself, young man. Most aesthetically pleasing defensive player I've ever watched. I mean, watching that guy play third base this day is a treat.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I mean, and so fun. Seemed like an awesome guy in the clubhouse too on some awful clubhouse teams. So everyone loves him, and that's for a reason.
Very, very important caveat to this. He's still a gift, even though he just retired. Mike, I don't know if you saw this. If you didn't see this, I'll send it to you.
No, but the JC Penney commercial?
Yeah. Did you see that?
Seen and retweeted, my friend.
Oh my God, it's so good. It's so good. If you're listening to this, you haven't seen this, just Google Adrian Beltre, JC Penney. Some Texas JC Penney did a charity drive, and just unbeknownst to this poor lady running the commercial, interviews Adrian Beltre and his family, and he just plays it straight the entire way.
He is one of the most weirdly eccentric people who has ever played baseball.
The head thing. I mean, it's crazy.
He's so the cup thing, is its own.
But I mean, if there's for he's and I know he'll never get it, but he's the guy who should be in the Mariner Hall of Fame who never will be.
Yeah. He will be. They'll put him in just because he will be in the Hall of Fame. And I was really kind of worried for a little while when he was just kind of chugging along and hadn't like totally done all of the 3,000 hits and like I'm a first ballot Hall of Famer business, that he would be on the bubble and he maybe wouldn't get in, and it would be because he spent 5 years in Seattle with kind of like depressed statistics, and everybody would say, if Adrian Beltre hadn't played for the Mariners for 5 years, he'd be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and that was just going to sort of like be like a vulture, like swirling around us as Mariner fans. So I'm really glad he blew past that, and he's just going to be in the Hall of Fame, and that we got to watch him play for 5 years, because I agree, he's one of the most aesthetically pleasing players who's ever existed.
The batter circle beef with the umpire a couple of years ago was one of my
sure. He's such a funny dude. It's great.
He's got a million of those, right? I mean, like he used to purposely fuck with Lindor, or Andrus at shortstop to like fake catches, pop flies.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've seen those. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And maybe like I don't have my finger on the pulse of the game the way like somebody who actually covers a game does, but in the loose way that I do, like one of the most universally respected players in the entire game by literally everybody associated with it, players, managers, journalists, everybody loves the guy.
And probably after Brooks Robinson, probably the greatest defensive third baseman of all time.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, we'll see where Matt Chapman falls in that. I'm glad he's on that division right.
We're lucky there.
That's fine. You don't have to worry about that, Mike. This easy. You have this perfect geographic separation where you can pop in for all the good stuff, and then when the Mariners get married, you'd be like, "Well, got to write a biography of Lafayette. I'm all the way across the world."
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't stay up late.
All right, I'm going to do this.
All right.
Who are
you taking in?
I feel completely overwhelmed by choice because we're just getting started. Hopefully this gets easier. I'm going to make a controversial selection. I'm going to pick my starting pitcher. I really want to pick Randy, but I can't do it. My heart makes me take Felix.
Okay.
I'm going to take Felix Hernandez. Mike already kind of prefaced it talking about either Edgar or Felix being the greatest Mariner of all time. I think that there's a really good case for Edgar. I probably even agree with the Edgar case, but I would make a case for argument's sake for Felix Hernandez because for Edgar, I don't think the decision to be a Mariner was particularly difficult because he was triumphant in, one, a great hitter spark in the kingdom for a good portion of his career. Two, he oversaw the glory years of this franchise, such as they are from 95 through 2003. Whereas Felix came immediately afterwards, and the Mariners have not succeeded quite famously in his time. And he had every opportunity to leave over and over again, or at least to be upset and demand to leave. Through all of that, he has not done so. He has never once badmouthed the franchise or the city. And it's sad where he's at now. It's very bittersweet, as a lot of Indians are. But for me, there is one starting pitcher that I would want in a Mariner playoff game, and it would be Felix Hernandez for all of the logical and illogical reasons. So, yeah, that's my pick, Felix Hernandez.
Wow, we really opened up with the big ones.
Yeah, well, I mean,
you got to. Somebody else is going to draft him, man.
I mean, to be clear, Randy Johnson is the greatest pitcher to ever pitch for the Seattle Mariners, as far as just pure quality.
Yeah, it's one of those phrasing things. Like Randy Johnson, I'm actually about to draft him. So my next pick is Randy Johnson.
Oh wow!
Of course it is. I think Randy Johnson was the greatest left-handed pitcher in the history of baseball. Full stop. Like you can, like Lefty Grove. Okay, great. He was amazing. But like it's Randy Johnson. But I did a couple years ago like go over the top of this whole like who's the greatest pitcher in Mariners history, and I think that title is now Felix's for sure. Yeah. Not just in terms of like what war they accumulated during their seasons with the team, and Randy's a better pitcher. Randy's a better pitcher than almost everybody who's ever lived on Earth. Yep. But in terms of for the franchise and for the fan base, I think Felix is more important and deserves that title. I think he's earned it in a way that when Randy Johnson he left, he wanted to leave, and Felix stayed. And then continued to pitch great, and is now entered a premature decline because of all of the wear and tear on his arm and whatever else. And I think that Felix absolutely deserves to just have the fan base unreservedly call him the greatest Mariner pitcher in history.
He's totemic for an entire for the generation that came around David and the one after now, since we have like the generation after that. I don't know who else you think of. If you think of if you're a Mariner fan, who else identifies and embodies this franchise more than Felix?
Nobody.
Right now, definitely no one.
His perfect game in 2012 is the outside of those glory years from 95 to 2003. In my opinion, it's the single most iconic moment in the history of the franchise.
I will say to Mike's point about Randy being maybe the best lefty of all time. I think I agree because there's pitchers who it's like, oh, we really don't want to face this guy in this situation. But then Randy was, I am literally scared to face this person in this situation.
He's a freak. He's a physical freak of nature.
Yeah.
Who harnessed a talent late in his life. Like he wasn't 28, 29 years old before he figured it out. It's amazing he didn't even wash out of the league.
Yes.
So, and this is true. We can just sort of transition seamlessly to my pick, which is Randy Johnson. But there is that split between the fan base age, where like if you came up later than I did, obviously Felix is the best. And when you think about who do I want on the mound, you say I want Felix Hernandez on the mound in his prime in those like 2010, 2011, 2012 years. But for me, like having grown up in the late 80s and 90s, like Randy Johnson there were years in there in like 94, 95, 96, where I honestly did wonder, I wonder if this is going to be the game where Randy Johnson strikes out all 27 batters.
Yeah, for real.
And I mean that like seriously. People are like, oh, that's a big joke. And it's like, well, I mean, the record is 20 and it's only 7 more than 20. And when Randy Johnson was on, I mean, he would come out and throw like 12 pitches and strike out the side in the first. And then he'd strike out the side in the second, and he would strike out. And I don't think people quite remember anymore, because it's now been 20 years. It's now been 20, 25 years since he was on the team. Just how dominant he was as a pitcher. He would overwhelm hitters in a way that is almost unimaginable today.
Yes.
And I love him dearly. And most of my really great his no hitter was, was one of the very few things. It was like, you do these, be like KSTW, like Channel 11, they had the Mariners Forever. And they'd be like, oh, here are the 10 greatest moments in Mariners history. And like, it's like Gaylord Perry's 300th win.
Yeah, like no one
Randy had that no hitter, and then it's like we like cut to commercial because we don't really have anything else to talk about. Dave Parker made a great throw at the '79 All-Star game, which technically happened in the Kingdome. You're like, okay.
Cal Ripken's moment at the All-Star game.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. There was just not that much that we had to go on.
There are so many things about Randy, and specifically referring to that no hitter, Mike. That's like proto Randy. I think it's 1990 is when he did it against the Tigers, and it's perfect because I'm looking at it right now. He threw a no hitter, complete game. Obviously, he walked 6.
Yes, I actually thought it was more than that.
And it's great too because the last strikeout is like he misses his spot by a good 2.5 feet. Like he almost chucks it to the backstop. The guy's just so overwhelmed that he misses it. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking so many other things that he's just, like you said, a freak and also kind of a testament to a bygone era in the sense that regularly throwing 140 or more pitches in a game, something that completely.
Yeah, he just doesn't exist in the modern game.
Yeah, he doesn't. And his strikeout totals. I think this is another thing that the game has changed enough in the last 5, 6, 7 years that like we're so used to seeing these high strikeout totals that it's crazy to think just how many people he was striking out year in and year out, like over like 300 strikeouts like regularly in a league that was not there yet. It wasn't like the 30s and 40s when, if you had 2 strikes, you would rather ground out to the shortstop than strike out, just as like a matter of like old timey honor.
Yeah, death before honor, baby.
Yeah, basically. But the fact that he was overwhelming guys who were actively also trying to not strike out is, So Randy Johnson is my pick. And
so speaking of mid '90s teams, I'm going shortstop Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah,
got to do it.
Born to do it.
I hate that that's a semi-controversial pick. I want this fan base to get over that.
We're past it.
I hope so.
I mean, like way worse stuff has happened at this point.
Yeah, that's a great pick. How old were you when A-Rod was playing for the team?
So didn't he technically debut in '94? Didn't he have like a
very
real
yeah?
Yeah, how old I was then.
And then he was back. He was on that '95 team. Like he was like the 40th guy on the roster.
Yeah,
'95 team.
So in 1994, when A-Rod debuted, I was 3 years old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
This is what I deal with every day. It's terrible.
Yeah.
My health.
No, but
I remember how mad I was when he left. I remember how mad I was when he gave the press conference where he said he wanted to be remembered as a Texas Ranger, and I was like, I like the 2001 season felt like it in your face because I loved him so much. It was like, how did you do this to us?
I was at the Monopoly Money game, the first one he came back.
Yeah.
It was.
You were at that game. That's great.
I've never seen it. They threw in batting practice. They chucked his home runs back. Like he hit foul balls and they threw him back onto the field. It was. I think the rare
remembered bit of like poetry of the 2001 season is he was the final strikeout of 116. He was the final out.
That may be correct, and if it's not, I want it to be.
I swear he's struck out the final out.
I'll tell you that what I remember, and we can check Baseball Reference on this, is that actually in game 161, I think, when we had 115 wins, that he should have struck out, and they didn't call it, and he walked, and we wound up losing that game, and so we didn't actually move to 117 to like clinch the record.
Sure. These are two very different memories.
Yeah, this is what my memory of, because there are little things like that. Like I remember Karl Malone once fouled Sean Kemp in Game 6 of the 1996 Western Conference Final, and then it wasn't called, and then we lost that game in overtime. So I didn't get to see the Sonics celebrate on court because I was at that game. These are things that I remember. But I love A-Rod. I love A-Rod.
Official podcast stance is fuck Karl Malone forever. We can keep that.
Of course, yeah. Karl Malone is.
Nathan, your pick.
Well, I wanted to really quick, just as we're talking about A-Rod, I looked at this actually before we went live on air, and just because sometimes it's so funny to me, especially like offense isn't the whole game of baseball right now. The modern game is kind of in this weird space, but the 90s were wild, you guys. I'm looking at the 1996 Mariners. They had 3 everyday players with an OPS over 1,000.
Yeah, they were good. It had nothing to do with the era.
Another one over 900.
Yes,
and another one close to 900. But they had every day Alex Rodriguez, Ken Griffey Jr., and Edgar Martinez in their prime. A-Rod, as a 20-year-old shortstop, went 358, 414, 631. He hit 36 home runs, 54 doubles, played a pretty good defensive shortstop. And this is what I tell people today who are younger. It's like, Mariners, they got the closest thing to Mike Trout that you'll ever see.
Yeah.
20-year-old.
That's really true.
Yeah.
And then Jeter moved him to third.
And then,
Mr. Team First. Fuck you. You play third.
Yeah.
If I could pick one thing I would really like to see for this team in the next 4 to 5 years, I already intimated it. I'd like to see them build a bridge with A-Rod. I think we all want to move on.
I think that'd be cool. I got over A-Rod like all right-thinking Mariner fans in about July of 2001. Because I was really bitter when he left. I was in college at that point, so I had a little bit of perspective. And I was like, you get somebody says, I'm going to give you $250 million. You don't say no to that.
Nope.
Basically. What really bothered me is that we made the playoffs in 2000 with a pretty good team that he was clearly the best player on. And so you take a team that was like pretty good that makes the playoffs and made it all the way to the ALCS, and then you take away their best player. Like what's 2001 going to be? It's basically the same team coming back, and we're going to win like 84, 85 games instead of like making the playoffs again. And instead they just didn't lose a game for like 3 months in 2001. And by that point, my real sort of emotional response to him leaving was mostly about like, what does this mean for the team going forward? And what it meant for the team going forward is like, I don't know, we became like Napoleon's Grand Army and nothing can stop us. And I don't know what's happening, but we just don't lose baseball games anymore.
Well, what was amazing was they found Carlos Guillen, which was an amazing deal there.
Yeah, real quick, on June 8th, 2001, the Mariners beat the Padres 7-1 to move their record to 47-12.
That was the best summer.
Yeah, it was.
The best
I
summer of
remember
my
that
life,
so
man.
well.
I was 21 years old living in Bellingham, and man, we were all Mariner fans, and it was just that was the best summer ever.
47-12.
It was so good.
47-12. I enjoy that team so much because every time, even like the last couple of years when the Dodgers had a great record a couple times and everybody gets all excited, I just like to pop in like a dick and be like, oh yeah, on this date the 2001 Mariners were X. Suck it. And
yeah, I don't go in for that too much because then inevitably they go like, and how's that World Series ring treat you? And I go, not well because we didn't win. We went, we lost in 5 games.
Yeah, that Yankees series was awful.
Yeah, that was depressing. Let's not talk about that. Nathan, make a pick.
Yeah, we're going. I'm going to pick Ichiro. For so many reasons. Ichiro is a gift for any baseball fan, specifically Mariner fan. It's impossible for me to even begin to summarize what he is and what he means to the game and to this franchise. But he is one of the, I would argue, 4 or 5 most unique players in the history of the game. When this team went to hell in 2005, he salvaged the season by breaking George Sisler's hit record. He is weird as shit. Nothing about the way he plays baseball makes any damn sense. Somehow, in the middle of being one of the greatest hitters to ever live, he is an even more fascinating human being. He is still technically playing baseball. He last year stopped playing baseball only on the terms that he could make up his own job in the franchise that involved him practicing every day. We talked about this in our last episode of the Ryan Davis.
Special assistant to the president?
Special assistant to the general manager, I think.
General manager.
And he just wore batting gloves and took BP. At the end of last year, during the Employee Appreciation Day, in which they let a lot of the Mariners employees go down on the field, take batting practice that Jerry Dipoto threw him, which is pretty cool. Ichiro just happened to be on the field doing his routine that he does every day, so he started shagging fly balls. It's endless. I mean, there's anecdotes of his personality and of his play, and honestly, I could just do it the whole rest of the episode just talking about Ichiro. But Ichiro's my pick. He's I don't know. He's unbelievable. I don't know how to summarize Ichiro. But
the Brett Boone stories, I feel like, are
what's that?
Him plus Brett Boone is like
him and Brett Boone in a clubhouse together.
Yeah,
and Jay Buhner.
Yep.
Actually, Jay, my understanding, Jay didn't like Ichiro very much, but yes.
Well, I wonder who I would take in that.
Yeah. I mean, I do love Jay, but yeah, Ichiro. I don't know. I've never been able to get over the timing of him coming in 2001 at the height of the steroid era and winning an MVP award, hitting dribblers to third base.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
So my thing with Ichiro is, so he came onto the team. I think I just said this. I was 21 in 2001. And he, like, there are those players that you rooted for when you were a kid, right? Griffey, like A-Rod, Randy Johnson, where you marked it, you have that sort of like youthful fandom. And then as you get older, you become an adult and you just don't quite have that same sort of emotional connection or like whatever spiritual connection with some players, because like even guys who are coming onto the team now, like even if they're amazing, there's something a bit more academic about your fandom than like true passion. And I can honestly say that in 2001, I would have assumed that I was beyond the sort of just like youthful, innocent rooting for a player with stars in your eyes. And then Ichiro came along. And I think he was the last guy, and he will be the last guy, because nobody since then has been able to do this. And I'm an old man now with 2 kids, and I'm very jaded and cynical. But I think if I entered a room and they were like, "Oh, and Ichiro, do you want to meet Ichiro?" I don't think I'd be able to function. I think I would seize up. I think I would really embarrass myself.
Yeah,
I think I would freeze.
He's so unique. He's not a real human. He's
touched by something. He's touched by something. When you talk about like him going, his little pilgrimages to the Hall of Fame, that he's really in close with the guys who run the Hall of Fame, because he will go there and cares about it. The guys who run the Negro League Hall of Fame in Kansas City, like he gives them money. Like he just shows up just to like talk to them about the players. He's plugged into something that is not entirely of this world.
Also, he exists to troll Pete Rose, and for that reason,
gives us all great joy. Because he's the hit king.
He is
undisputed. Undisputed hit king.
Yep, Ichiro. Everyone knows this.
It's Ichiro Suzuki.
Uh-huh. What's your next pick, Mike?
Okay. I'm really
Go from getting out of the easy ones.
Yeah. I am, because here's the weird thing is that, like, I already took Edgar because it had to be there. I might actually be taking Nelson Cruz right now.
Yes.
If it wasn't like a DH, but I've already got a DH. So I'm actually going to take Robinson Cano.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm going to take him, which is weird because, like, maybe it should be Boone, maybe it should be Harold Reynolds, but the Mariners were on a little run there where it was like we were in talks, like they were going to throw a big money contract at somebody, and like for a while it was we were in on Prince Fielder.
Yep.
We were in on Albert Pujols. We were in on oh God, what's his name? Why am I blanking on his name? The guy with the guy who was with the Rangers, the drug addict. Josh Hamilton. Sorry. Oh God, that's a terrible. I shouldn't describe him as that.
Well, it's a distinguishing feature,
but it's true.
Yeah.
So there was like 3 years in a row where it's like we're gonna push a giant pile of money at somebody.
Yes.
And it was like, oh my God, don't give that to Josh Hamilton. Don't give it to Prince Fielder. Don't give it to Albert Pujols. And all of those would have been disasters.
Yes.
And then like Robinson Cano came along, and we outbid the Yankees.
Yes.
Like, who outbids the Yankees? First of all, that doesn't happen. And we took him from the Yankees and brought him over. And I was like, well, if we're going to do this and we're going to throw this pile of money at somebody, like Robinson Cano is not a bad choice. Like, he's a really good hitter. He's pretty fluid. He's a second baseman. If he needs to, maybe he can shift over to first base. Like, he's not at the end of his line already. But that was all, again, just like sort of in my head. I had never really watched him play baseball.
Yes.
And when it comes to, like you said earlier about Beltre being so aesthetically pleasing as a baseball player, like Robinson Cano is extraordinarily aesthetically pleasing as a baseball player. The way he carries himself, the way he hits, the way he walks, the way he runs, the way he would cover second base.
It's just all so easy for him.
It's so fluid. His little like crossover throw to first base, like everything about him. I didn't realize how much I was going to love watching him play baseball. I'm really glad that we don't have to watch the end of his career now. I mean, if they're going to blow the team up, at least I don't have to watch him ground out to second base and be mad. But Robinson Cano was surprisingly one of my most favorite Mariners. So I'm as surprised as anybody that this is
there was an aspect to us signing him. I was in grad school when we signed him, and having been kind of away from Seattle and the whole saga, I first of all didn't think it would happen, and second of all, when we did, I just assumed like he must be trash now, and I just missed it because there's no way we're getting this player. And then we did. I know, and it was the best. He was so fun.
He's so good.
Yes, he's so good.
And respected as hell in the clubhouse and by the beat that covered him. He has that reputation for being like that dumb, like Mad Dog sports talk radio hot take rep for the guy that doesn't run out grounders to second base. But anybody who mattered a damn, like, just sang his praises for how well he prepped and all the work he did behind the scenes. And there's talking about the fluidity. I think there's just him and Beltre both. There's just something cool.
Really cool.
Yeah, and the ability to throw the ball to first on a dime from like seemingly any arm angle. Yes. I just can't. I played baseball at Fairmont Grove. I just can't do that. I just don't know how they do it. It's so cool.
That all being said, I'm going to draft here. Are we ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
So somehow still on the board is Ken Griffey Jr.
I know, this is really weird.
That is actually amazing. I forgot about Griffey.
So I'm going to take at center field Ken Griffey Jr.
Attaboy.
Bold take. Your team
that's
now.
All right. That's all right. I have a slightly more favorite center fielder in the history of the Mariners.
I do too. I have a more favorite center field, but I just I can't leave Griffey.
I know, but the 90,
don't draft for need, David. Yeah. Don't draft for need.
I just want to, as a quick highlight, my team currently has Beltre, A-Rod, and Griffey.
You're doing fine. You're gonna get stuck drafting like anyway. I don't know. You're gonna get stuck with Mike Moore as your starting pitcher, though.
That'll be fine.
Mike Moore was good.
I don't even know what to say about Griffey because I mean, we all know, right? Like,
he's the first.
Speaking of aesthetically pleasing baseball players,
possibly the most aesthetically pleasing of them all.
The way he played center field will probably never happen again. It was
the way he walked to first, or the way he walked to the plate.
Yes.
That's when I think about Griffey, I think of him walking to the plate with just like the bat in his hand, and he just had this really specific walk. And
it was
and then like Hip Hop Hooray would be playing.
And then it was just like that stillness of anticipation anytime he would do anything, because you just knew it was going to be electric.
Yeah. He's the city's first true superstar.
Unquestionably.
Yes.
Yeah. And what I love about him is that when he came onto the scene in 1989 and like 1990, 1991, it was, I think, not entirely clear to most of the baseball world. There was, in fact, a Major League Baseball team that played in Seattle.
Yes.
Because it was just 10 years of sort of nothing blah baseball.
Yeah.
It's all pre-internet, right? So like, and this is also something people don't remember, is that like, if you were like a hardcore fan in like New York or Boston, Baltimore, Philadelphia, you'd wake up in the morning to get the morning paper and they would say like, oh, well, these games hadn't been played at press time, so we don't actually know what happened on the West Coast until like later. They like literally didn't publish this stuff.
Right.
So it was not entirely clear that the Mariners even existed as a franchise, I think, for their first 10 or 15 years. And Griffey forced people to know that the Mariners actually did exist, because he became so famous and was so great. And it was all in a Mariners uniform that they were like, oh, there actually is a team in Seattle. These people actually do exist. That's amazing. So for that, I will forever love him.
I mean, he built the new stadium.
Yeah, his legacy is so different if he comes up with like the Dodgers or the Red Sox or the Yankees, because he's still a great player, but he's just another in a long line. And like you said, Mike, he basically literally put Seattle baseball on the public consciousness.
I think he did. I think he single-handedly put Seattle sports into the public consciousness, because the Sonics had won a championship or two in like the late 70s, but the Seahawks weren't anything. The Mariners weren't anything.
Isn't that literally the year that Peyton gets drafted too? Or is that Kemp? 89.
Kemp is 89.
Yep.
Peyton
90. Yep. If I remember. Those teams perfectly coincided with each other, and they were both so badass.
Well, like the George Karl Sonics, Lou Piniella Mariners era of Seattle sports is that is
and grunge.
I think that's the golden age.
Nirvana, the Sonics, oh man.
I was younger, so it was definitely better. That's what I know. That's how history works, right?
That is the golden age of Seattle sports.
I agree.
I understand that none of them won a championship, and that recently another sports
team
franchise.
Yeah.
The Storm.
And also, if UW football kicked a lot of ass in the early days.
They really did. Yeah, they were robbed out of that national championship in '91.
Fuck Miami.
Yeah.
Nathan, did you say you had a question?
What's that?
Did you say you had a question?
No.
Oh, okay.
I didn't.
No, he's got a pick. You got Ken Griffey Jr. You have Ken Griffey Jr. and Alex Rodriguez and Adrian Beltre. I think you're the leader in the clubhouse.
It's not a bad start. I got to quit picking with my heart, but I'm not going to. I'm going to take Nelson Cruz, a designated hitter.
Oh boy, yeah.
So I can't believe that. Actually, it's amazing. Like, obviously, I would take Edgar at designated hitter, but I would actually pause for a moment, just for a moment, before I took Edgar, to consider Nelson Cruz. He was only here for 4 years. Mike already talked about the era in which Robinson Cano signed, which was the end of a decade of this team trying to pretend like they had the ability or smarts to build a team through the farm system. 2014, they clearly gave up doing that. What's obvious and what all Mariner fans know, but it's still worth mentioning with Nelson, is that before the Mariners acquired him, he had become a running Mariner fan meme for 2 or 3 years of, oh my God, please don't sign Nelson Cruz, you dipshits.
Yeah,
you're going to give all this money to Nelson Cruz. And then they did that. And then he became, I think literally by the numbers, either the greatest hitter in team history or the second greatest. It's either him or Edgar. I can't remember where it finished.
I believe by WRC Plus, it was Nelson Cruz.
Yeah. So by
that sounds right.
Yeah, by forward-thinking metric, he is the greatest hitter in the history of the franchise. His home run, we talked about Felix's perfect. I talked about Felix's perfect game being arguably the most iconic moment of the modern Mariner era. I would put Nelson Cruz's home run in Game 161 of 2016 against the A's to tie that game up. In the next tier below that. He is the combination. I knew that he could hit bombs, and I knew that he had a great power. But watching him continue to become a better and better overall hitter every year, the guy started grinding out at bats. He really developed his eye. Obviously, kept himself in phenomenal shape. He's literally a Greek god come down to walk amongst men. So I'm taking Nelson Cruz.
That was the thing, was you always heard about guys we'd sign hitting bombs somewhere else, and then they'd come and you'd be like, where is it? But he was more than what was sold.
Yeah, I was down on that contract.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was. Yeah.
Because what are you going to do? You're going to bring in another power hitting right-handed hitter to just like flail. Cool. Kendrys Morales. Great. Good work, everyone. Let's do this. Let's do this again. And then he just wasn't ever anything but awesome. And also, like, you referenced game 161. I think that was maybe the second or third greatest baseball game I've ever just watched start to finish. Like the 95 game 5 is never going to not be the greatest game I ever watched. But that game 161, and Nelson Cruz was so hurt at the end of that season. Yes. Like, he had like bad knees, a bad back, like every part of him hurt.
He couldn't hold the bat with one hand, basically.
Yeah, he was really broken down. And you could just tell, like, that whole last month of that season and leading into that game, that he just didn't not want to do anything but his best.
Yeah.
That I liked him because he kept doing better than I thought he would do. And then that's really when, like, he became one of my favorite Mariners. And like I said, like, pound for pound, like one of the best hitters, if not the best hitter in the history of the franchise.
Yeah.
Incredible.
An amazing hitter of this era too. Really lucky to have him.
Just tweeted out a picture of his new Twins uniform this morning, which
Godspeed. Godspeed.
I hope he hits a million home runs and they make the playoffs.
And it's too bad. It's too bad because nothing happened out of this team that got put together, because they never really technically accomplished anything in terms of going to the playoffs or winning a World Series or anything. That he's going to be a footnote. People are going to be like, "Whoa, Nelson Cruz played for the Mariners." It's like, yeah, he sure did, and he was awesome.
Yep. Yeah, it's too bad. Mike, what do you have next?
Okay, so what am I gonna do? I am really enough. Okay, I took Randy Johnson. Okay, I am going to take as my center fielder Mike Cameron.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what you wanted, right, Dave?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
it's weird. Do you want to trade me Griffey for Cameron?
I'll keep Griff. I'll keep Griffey.
That's cool. You should keep Griffey.
Mike Cameron.
I love Mike Cameron.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
like, how do you come in and fill Griffey's shoes and everyone sort of forget?
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
I can remember talking to my dad about in 2000. It's just like, we feel so bad for whatever center fielder comes in, because he's, no matter what, not going to be able to be as good as Griffey or as beloved as Griffey. And it just turned out to be Mike Cameron. And Mike Cameron was an amazing baseball player. He was a better center fielder than Griffey by like kind of leaps and bounds, actually. Like, when you look at Mike Cameron, you're like, oh, wow, like, was Griffey overrated in center field? Like, yeah, it turns out maybe he was a little overrated in center field. And Mike Cameron was just significantly better. And, letting Cameron just walk away in 2003 is like, the Mariners have a long list of boneheaded decisions and stupid trades and like whatever, but like the Heathcliff Slocum trade or the Bedard trade. But right up there is just letting Mike Cameron in his prime walk away. I don't even know if they offered him a contract. They did not. They did not even offer him a contract. They were just like, okay, thanks a lot. See you later.
Break out too much.
Yeah.
Well, when you have Jeremy Reed in the system.
Jeremy Reed. Jeremy Reed is not going to get drafted in this draft.
Well, you were saying, how do you ingratiate yourself to the fan base after Griffey? Well, I'll tell you how you do it. You rob Derek Jeter of a home run within the first
in front of the pen.
Sure.
Yeah.
Which is a top 5 moment, I think, in the whole history of the franchise.
Yes, that catch
that catch was unbelievable.
Well, that was the thing with Cammy, is obviously he wasn't Junior, because nobody ever was, but he, like Junior, he had that sense of the moment just that feel for being able to do the amazing thing, the robbing Jeter. I know he's the guy that hit the home run that ended the 19-inning marathon against the Red Sox.
He hit that off of Jeff Fassero. I was there in the stadium.
Just one bad pitch. Jeff Fassero.
Mm-hmm.
That's the guy. Former Mariner great. Also probably not getting drafted.
Also watched him hit 4 home runs in a baseball game.
Yes.
And
that is
watched him in his 5th at bat of that game park one to the warning track.
Yep.
His last at bat, he hit one about 5 feet short of going down forever as the only person to hit 5 home runs in a baseball game.
Imagine hitting 5 home runs in a game. Like
he was 5 feet away from doing it.
My favorite thing about that game is obviously him hitting 4 home runs. Yes, him and Boone going back to back twice in the same inning is the most ridiculous little statistical oddity. Mike, I'm sorry, we skipped over it. Did you say you were at that 19-inning game against the Red Sox?
I sure was.
Did you stay for all 19 innings?
I sure did.
Oh my God.
What time did you get home?
I don't know. I was young. It was great.
Actually,
there's a minor. I actually ripped my pants in that game because at one point I got up to cheer, and the whole back. The back of my left leg caught on something, and I just ripped a giant hole in the back side. So I had to then walk around with a sweatshirt tied around my neck because my ass was hanging out of some. we were young. It was fun. But yeah, I was at that whole game, and the depressing thing is I keep score when I go to games. I'm a habitual scorekeeper, and I kept score that entire game. I had it. It was somewhere.
Wow.
And it went missing. I don't know where it is. Yeah, it's really a bummer.
That's a labor of love.
It is.
I've lived a pretty good life, and I don't have many regrets, but that's one of them.
So speaking of regrets, because the position gets so bad so fast, I'm going to take John Olerud at first base.
Oh, great pick. That was who I was also going to pick.
I'll
just take Dae-Ho Lee. It'll be fine.
There's no one else.
Dae-Ho Lee.
Olerud is the pick there.
Yeah,
most underrated Mariner of all time, maybe.
I think so.
I'd put him in the Hall of Fame, but
yes,
biased.
I mean, his counting statistics and his advanced statistics are all crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not to mention what a great defensive player he was.
Right? He had 3 seasons above 8 WAR.
Yep.
Yeah, it's absurd.
His year with the Blue Jays in '92, is it? 93. He hit 363, 473, 599. That's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he came to Seattle, and all of the guys that Gillick snapped up in 2000 and 2001, you felt this guy's kind of a vet. He's a little bit past his prime. And then the second they got to Seattle for those 2 years, they immediately caught a second win and started kicking ass. And
Washington State Cougar as well. Go Cougs, right?
I don't believe he ever played a game in the minor leagues.
No, he did not. He's one of those guys. He went to Eastlake High School.
Did he really?
Yeah, he did. Which is I didn't go to Eastlake, but most of my I went to Redmond High School. Most of my friends actually went to Eastlake. So he's Eastlake High School's own John
I had
Olerud.
no clue.
Yeah, he's still living out there trying to tear down everybody's trees, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he sold out, moved to Bellevue.
Yeah,
one of Bellevue, as one does. Incredible player. David, did you say that you were at the San Diego game where he hit for the cycle?
No, I was at the San Diego game where Barry Bonds tied Hank Aaron's record.
Okay, Barry Bonds and John Olerud are easily confused. So
a little more iconic, but
yes, one is the whitest white man who ever lived, and the other is Barry Bonds.
Sometimes I mix them up.
Yeah, I can often mix those up as well.
You know how Olerud is the right pick there is because invariably, just out of habit, if you talk to a Mariner fan, anytime a Mariner fan or even a scout or somebody in the know starts getting excited about a Mariner first base prospect, the ceiling they will always refer to is John Olerud.
And I don't know if you guys know this, but we haven't quite reached that ceiling since.
Yeah, it's been a bit tough.
I have no expectation for the ceiling. I'm excited for Evan White. That's all I'm going to say. I think he's going to be fun. But he's not going to be John Olerud because John Olerud's a Hall of Famer, maybe.
I think John Olerud should go in the Hall of Fame. I'm a big Hall guy.
Yes, me too.
Famously, it's if there's a question about it, just screw it, put him in.
Put him in.
It's not that big of a deal. And
really
is John Olerud make the Hall of Fame worse? I don't think he does. I think he's got amazing statistics, and I think he was a great defensive player, and I think he played for a long time for a lot of great teams, and I think I'd put him in.
I completely do not remember him playing a half season in Boston as his last year in the major leagues. Have no memory.
I know that it happened. I'm not sure that I remember it.
I have no visual image of him wearing a Red Sox uniform in my head. We're getting down to it, but I'm going to take Booney at second base because I have to for many reasons.
180 Boone.
You were talking earlier about the guy in the 30s and 40s who would get 2 strikes on him and then crouch down and try to slap a ground out to shortstop. And what I loved about Boone, amongst many other things, was that he imitated that stance for the entirety of 2000 and 2001. But instead of ground out to the shortstop, he just decided to hit a ball 10 rows deep the other way.
Sure.
I don't know how he did it. Well, I do know how he did it, actually. I think most people know how he did that at this point. But
steroids.
Yes.
He was on steroids.
Steroids. I think in Seattle sports and just in the Northwest in general, we have an uncomfortable relationship with cockiness. Just culturally, we don't really know how to deal with it. And I think both because of that and his success, there's something cool and fun about Bret Boone, who just gave no fucks and came in and wore shirts that said "Chicks dig the long ball," bleached his hair to look like a damn surf boy idiot, and just went out there and played like the best goddamn second baseman alive for 2000 and 2001. And it's very, very un-Seattle, and because of that, I love him. His 2001 season, I think, is still he probably should have won the MVP over Ichiro that year.
Sure.
As far as
yeah.
So I love Bret Boone. Let's see. Hitting let's see, 950 OPS and 37 home runs with good defense at second.
He was a great defensive second
Yes.
in those years. And that's actually when I think about Boone as like, so with Boone, it's like some kind of double or home run the other way. Like that's classic Bret Boone style.
Yep.
And I used to yell at the TV because he would try to pull everything and he'd ground out to the shortstop and he'd ground out to the shortstop, he'd ground out to the third baseman. And when he went the other way,
his swing was designed to.
That's when he was in his prime. But really, when I think about Boone, is him like he had this because he was on steroids. That like a grounder would like go through the infield, and he would run it down the way that like in a way that didn't seem quite physically possible. Like the ball is traveling faster than a human can run, and yet Bret Boone just ran into the outfield, grabbed that ground ball, turned around and threw it to first and got the guy out. Like that's what I think of. He was like, he was like a golden retriever. He would just beeline for it. I mean, it was really that, and that's when I think about it is him running into the outfield to pick up a ground ball that had gotten by him, and then turning around and throwing the guy out at first.
I'm sad that our splits on Fangraphs don't start until 2002, so I can't look at his 2-strike numbers in 2001 because I'd be fascinated to know, because I think that crouch he got into, you're right, it helped somehow. It triggered a thing where he, anecdotally in my head, he would always go the other way with 2 strikes, but he was so strong because of the steroids that he could still drive the ball really well. Incredible player to watch that year.
Okay, so that means that it's my pick.
Yes.
And now I have to do something crazy. I don't think that you guys are going to pick either of these other 2 dudes, so I'm not going to worry about that. And I'm going to do the really dumb thing, which is as my left fielder.
No.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
No.
Because the Mariners have historically and famously, if you care about the Mariners, which is like 12 of us, have never had a consistent left fielder. It's a weird hole position for the franchise. Like every year there's a new starting left fielder and we just cycle through them. And except for like Randy Wynn and like a couple of years of Raul Ibanez, like we've never just had a left fielder. Whereas if you look at like the Boston Red Sox, their left fielders have been Ted Williams and Manny Ramirez and Carl Yastrzemski. Like when you ask like, oh, who played left field for the Boston Red Sox, you're talking about 3 of the greatest players in history, spanning like 7 decades between them. Like they just covered like the entire history of the franchise between Williams, Yastrzemski, and Manny Ramirez. Whereas the Mariners, in our 30 years, have never had a left fielder for any length of time. So I'm not going to take Kevin Mitchell. And I'm not going to take Adam Johnson. I'm not going to take Raul Banez. I'm going to take Ricky Henderson because Ricky Henderson did play for the Mariners and he did play left field for the Mariners. And I love Ricky Henderson. He's one of my favorite players of all time. And so I'm taking Ricky Henderson as my Mariners left fielder.
Oh, that was up my sleeve.
I love it. Bill James is problematic these days because he keeps saying things on the internet. But one of my favorite Bill James lines is the Ricky Henderson. You could cut him in half and have 2 Hall of Famers.
Sure.
And I think that's accurate. I think he's probably one of the 5 to 10 best position players to ever live.
The most athletic-looking baseball player. Those quads, my God.
Oh my God, that's exactly what I was going to say. Like he wore the tight pants, and man, that guy's legs were just superhuman. He had running back. He was built like a running back.
Yes.
With freakish eye-hand coordination and an amazingly disciplined batting eye.
So there's not a ton to say about him as a Mariner, except for that he played for the team, and I got to watch him play for the team, and it was one of the 17 or 18 teams that he played for in his career. But we were one of them, and so I get him.
And he was pretty good in Seattle. He was a 400 man.
Yeah, I think his on base percentage was over 400 in that last couple of months. I mean, he hit like 250.
Yep. He famously scored on the bunt, which is like the iconic moment for me.
He was the one who scored on the Carlos Guillen bunt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty cool. That's a great pick. David, what do you have?
Wow, that was my next. Oh, I have so many ideas. I'm gonna go. Oof. We're getting into. We've kind of taken the cream out.
Now we're actually taking like the Mariners.
Now we're picking Mariners baseball players.
Yes.
I'm actually gonna go, and this is sort of a cheat because I could go anywhere, but I'm gonna go second base, Mark McLemore.
Ooh.
You're taking Mac. Oh, that's a great pick.
I love it.
Okay, so you're putting him at second.
That's where I'm going to put him.
That's fine.
Great pick. And he could go anywhere, obviously.
Obviously.
Because I was reserving him for maybe another spot too. But I'm going to put him at second base. An incredible 2 seasons, really.
The best McLemore in Seattle history.
Yep. The best Seattle McLemore.
Yes.
I love him. He's still around the game a lot. Is he in the booth for the Rangers? Yeah. And I mean that, like, as a utility man, he had a 3-win season. Just playing everywhere.
Like, I think so. I don't know if it's a hot take. I think Lou Piniella's a little bit overrated as a manager. Sure. But he used McLemore perfectly in Seattle. Like, he got him in like 5 days a week or so, and it was always he was using him to spell the other guys on his team. It was a beautiful thing to watch, and he played brilliantly. So,
McLemore is one of those guys that helps make a manager look good.
Really smart.
Because you be like, well, you need a day off, and I'll just put McLemore in, and like the team won't ever miss a beat if he's in left or if he's in right or center or shortstop or third base or first base, or he probably could have caught. And I think a lot of us at the time were hoping that in one of those like dead games that they would have just done the let's just play him at all 9 positions. Like that's like do that like 1 inning at each position business. Yeah, McLemore is on my list. I didn't know where I was going to stick him, but that's a great pick.
I'm going to go do what I think is a fairly obvious pick for mine, and I'm going to take Siegs at third base. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the future holds for Kyle. He might be over the hill and be bad now. A lot of people think that, but the fact that he did not come directly after Adrian. There were a couple of seasons in the wilderness there, but he's not the greatest third baseman in Mariner history. That's Adrian Beltre. But Kyle Seager, for about 5 or 6 years there, was a 3 to 4 win player and stands as the lone shining exception to Jack Zarenzik's apocalyptic wasteland management of the Mariners farm system. He is the one guy that made it through all of that. He's, I think, pretty low key, a very funny, sarcastic, self-deprecating guy. I was at the game.
I mean, he's Corey's brother. Like,
yeah.
That alone, like,
he
notwithstanding, he's one of the best Mariners of all time. But
I was at the Hisashi Iwakuma no hitter, and his catch, I think, in the 8th inning is still like one of those moments that I'll just remember for the rest of my life, because he ran towards the third base rail and then completely lost the ball and then looked up and basically just threw his mitt behind his back as his body pirouetted 180 degrees, and somehow the ball found the mitt. And I hope that I hope he can rebound. The shift has kind of screwed him, but I'm taking Siegs.
That's a great pick.
Great player.
Nobody's made a bad pick yet, and Seager's another one of those guys.
I might be coming close to a bad.
Okay, great. But because of the state of the franchise, like Seager's going to just disappear kind of into oblivion, and he's not really going to be remembered, even if the team comes back around and does something good. And it just makes me feel bad for Mariner fans who sort of started to tune the team out, and for Seager himself, that he's better than Jay Buhner. Like he's better than most of the guys that you think of, like except for like the creme de la creme, right, of the team. He's up there.
You guys hear me?
I hear you.
We lose Mike.
We might have lost Mike.
Yeah. His phone may have died. We can just patch it in. It's all good.
Yeah. Oh, it'll be fine.
When did I go out?
Oh, you went in right at the end of the Seager thing.
It'll be honestly an easy cut. Yeah.
Yeah, we lost about 10 seconds. We're fine.
Do you want to?
My phone just died.
Oh, no worries.
Oh, sorry.
I figured that was coming.
Are you on library Wi-Fi now?
I'm on Wi-Fi now, so we'll see how it goes from here on out.
Okay, we've got a lot of good stuff in, so we'll just rapid fire finish the last round.
Honestly,
yeah. So you're up, Dave.
Okay, so you took Seager, and now I am going to take another player from that same era of the Mariners, who is one of my favorite Mariners of all time, and that is Brendan Ryan.
Oh, God damn it!
Ooh,
my next one. Shit.
There's actually.
So I think Brendan Ryan was the best defensive shortstop who's ever played for the franchise, and that includes Omar Vizquel. That's not
a fantastic take.
I don't think that's controversial. I think that's true.
Well, I don't know. Vizquel's got these weird fanboys that
it's true.
I don't really get it, but Brendan Ryan, I love him. Him running to third base on a ground ball to shortstop against the A's is one of the funniest things I've ever seen on a baseball field. So he was a shining light on a awful little spell of Mariners baseball. Could not hit worth a damn.
No.
But phenomenal defensive player. Great pick. David, what do you have?
All right, so I'm going to go, and I checked to make sure this actually happened, because on the 25th of September in 2007, Adam Jones played right field for the Seattle Mariners.
Oh, you bastard.
And I'm going to pick him as my right fielder.
That's so bittersweet.
I think it'll work out for me.
Okay. How many? He played one game in right field?
Is that the only one? So far, it's the only one I've found.
I don't remember him in right field. I remember him in left field when he first came up, and I remember him he just made a couple weird rookie errors in left field, and that was right in the middle of the 2007, where it was a lot like the 2018 season, where it felt like, oh shit, how are they competing? But they are competing. And then I remember people just clamoring that this guy was never going to be good, and they had to trade him right away for relief pitching help. And it was like, no, don't do that. And they didn't do that. They waited until the offseason to trade him for Eric Bedard.
I count 5 games that Adam Jones had in right field, so I feel legit about it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I can get that. Notably the second greatest right fielder in franchise history, obviously.
Notably.
There's no debate there. Man, I want to take a first baseman, but the field is so slim, and I was going to take Brendan Ryan, but then Mike took Brendan Ryan. So I'm going to take Carlos Guillen at shortstop.
Yeah, that's the
There you go.
that's the one.
Which I think is fine. What's funny is the Mariners have sold off a lot of superstars in their franchise history, and more often than not, they've gotten pretty good return for it. We talked about Mark Langston earlier. When they traded him, they got Randy Johnson back, and when they traded Randy Johnson, they got Carlos Guillen, and even John Halama was a serviceable player. And then when they traded Griffey, they got Mike Cameron. So Carlos Guillen was a mainstay. That's my pick. Mike, you with us?
I am. I have to think now. Because Carlos Guillen is another one of those guys. Like Mike Cameron, they both walked away from the franchise basically at the same time. and both went on to have great careers, and they could have stuck around. The team could have been something more than it was after 2003. They didn't have to just crater. Goodness gracious. Okay, so I am looking at.
You have a few woof positions left.
Jeez, man.
Well, and luckily this is favorite.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I still don't think that anybody's going to take my third baseman, who is one of my favorite players. No, I'm just going to do it right now. Like, I'm not going to walk away from this draft without getting David Bell at third base.
Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
So David Bell is who I'm picking as my third baseman. I love David Bell. I don't know even why I love David Bell as much as I do. It might be the third generation thing. I think before Beltre came along, he was the best defensive third baseman.
Yep.
He was a rock down there. Nothing got by him. He hit for a decent. He hit decently. He played a great defensive third base. And I sponsored his Baseball Reference page for like 3 or 4 years while that was still like a thing.
That's awesome.
Just as like a thing, because I wanted to support Baseball Reference, which is the only good website on the internet.
Yes.
Oh, we have
including my own and yours. And Baseball Reference is the only good website, and I wanted to support them somehow. And so I spent like $50 a year. Would sponsor David Bell's webpage or page at Baseball Reference. So I'm just going to take him, David Bell.
We've now filled the third base position for our whole draft, and I want you guys to note that the Jeff Cirillo disrespect is definitely noted. He's going to find it.
Jeff, do you mean Jeff Succarillo?
Possibly the most poisonous manager-player relationship that I know of is Jeff Cirillo and Lou Piniella. Lou hated him so much, so fast.
What about Spezio, though? Am I right?
All right, so David, your pick. We could do another episode where we draft our least favorite Mariners. It would go on for sure.
I would just draft him.
First captain, first choose. I get Carlos Silva.
Is he even that? It's like that's not even an easy pick for me. There's so many.
There's a ton I've hated. Speaking of ones I don't hate, though, I will go left field. Randy Wynn. Love him so much.
That's good. That's good.
You do love Randy.
Love.
Yeah. I have, for whatever reason, an unspeakable attachment to him, mostly because he was one of those trades where I just was like, he was a deadline trade, wasn't he?
He was traded for Lou Piniella.
Yes, that is it. That is it. And
for Randy.
Like, you just expect that to be the dumbest thing to ever happen, and then you get like 2 or 3 seasons of a very useful Randy Wynn.
Yeah.
Like a 3-win player. Yeah.
Incredibly underrated.
Yes.
Went to San Francisco.
Extremely useful is a good way of putting it.
Yep.
Teammate of Steve Nash in college.
Roommates even, right?
I don't know about that.
That was like the thing. Yeah, they were roommates.
Huh. I didn't see that. I did not remember. But, geez, I'm going to make a really, really dumb, very, very sentimental pick now. Just because I feel like after Griffey and Cammy, center field is just not good. So for the sole purpose,
there's two. No, there's two.
There's one I could get behind.
Okay, now I'm going to hold off. And you guys got me.
No, do it. No, what are you?
I'm going to take JJ Putz as the relief pitcher.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do it because it was, again, I feel like a lot of this is in the period of the wilderness between 2005, 2010. Mariner fans have had a lot of bad years, but that era between like 2005 and when they signed Cano is incredibly bleak. And Putz was like, he's not the greatest relief pitcher in franchise history anymore, thanks to Edwin Diaz. But before that, he was pretty clearly the best reliever they ever had. And I have such fond memories of 2007. I had access to seats that entire year for free, and we went so many times, and that was at his height. And that was when he struck out Barry Bonds in some huge ninth inning game.
Yes.
Bonds was at the height of his power.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
And,
were you at that game?
I was at that game.
Ask.
Yes.
Wow.
You were at that game. So I was playing in a band at that point. This really ruckus like punk band, and yeah, I have a whole life before I became like legitimate. and me and the drummer,
legitimate.
Me and the drummer were both huge Mariner fans, and we were supposed to be on Like they were like, "You're on," and we were like, "Yeah, it's the 9th inning, and we're gonna finish. We're gonna finish this game." And so I have a very clear memory of that because it was them against the Giants when Putz struck out Barry Bonds to end in that game, and then we went and then we killed it because we were awesome.
And because
and then the set was kick ass.
And then the set, yeah, we totally
also
brought the house down.
Also, I was at the perfect age and time of life where even though it was cheesy as hell and the song is whatever, his intro to Thunderstruck was just, it was like one of those perfect matches of player and song. And I remember watching him warm up in the bullpen once because I was right over the bullpen. And I remember that song came on and he just grabbed like 2 bottles of water and just like ripped open the top and double fisted them and then just chucked them against the bullpen wall and went running. I was like, yeah, man, slam those water.
Was he a sprinting? Yeah.
It was,
God, of course he was.
It was very.
He wasn't. Yeah, he was. Yeah,
and he also is the star of one of the great Dave Niehaus outtakes.
Yes,
all time. Here comes this big fucker to walk the world. I miss you forever, Dave.
Late career, Dave.
Man,
he was the best. So, Mike, I think you're up now.
Okay, so it is my turn. Let's see, first base or catcher is what I still have left to deal with. I'm fine at first base with anybody who's there. Catcher, like I'm actually wearing a Mike Zunino shirt right now. On behalf of I'm actually wearing a Mike Zunino shirt right now.
Respect.
I did really love him. Now that he's gone and in the past tense, which just
Yeah, I don't think you're alone there.
This has been a stupid offseason.
Yeah.
But I'm actually going to take somebody else at catcher, and I'm going to take John Jaso.
Oh,
great take.
Because Jaso is another one of those, like, in the history of the franchise, just making dumb decisions. Like, just sort of giving him away for nothing. Like, John Jaso was a pretty good baseball player, you guys.
Yep.
And he was I don't even know off the top of my head what his defensive, if he was even any good as a catcher, which is not good. But he was a good hitter in that season that we had him.
Yep.
He was really solid, and he was probably one of, after Ichiro, like the best hitter on the team.
Yeah.
And they just sort of let him go, which I never understood. And basically it's more like I wanted more of Jaso on the team.
We actually did this as a thought experiment last week because I don't know if you remember, Mike, but the trade for Jaso was Mike Morse.
Right. I'm surprised nobody took Mike Morse at shortstop.
Who hit 7 home runs in his first 10 games in 2013 before getting beaten.
Him in the wrist and everything went to hell.
Yep.
I think my thing with Jaso is I still, as a Mariner fan, felt so shell-shocked after 2010, which was, for my money, the worst season of baseball I've ever watched in my entire life. It was offensively historically bad, and just he was the one guy in 2012, other than Ichiro, that could get on base, and even outside of Ichiro, the one that could like actually draw a walk. Nobody else in that
who knew anything about how to actually like play baseball.
Yep.
Like legitimately, that was pretty much where they were at. Yeah.
So what you do is you swing at strikes and you don't swing at balls. That's kind of the gist of what I'm supposed to be doing here, right? So he endeared himself to me. And then also like Jaso, just like as a dude.
Yes.
Like he's totally like a dude.
Yes.
But he seems to be really he's got a good, take on life. Yeah, and I don't know if you guys saw the video of him trying to go down and say hi to like the guys in Tampa Bay.
Yep.
A couple years, I forget if it was last year or the year before.
I think it was this past season.
Was it this past season where he's like, I'm just going to go down and say hi to my old bros, like no big deal. And he's wearing like Bermuda shorts and he's got dreads and he just looks like a homeless dude. And he's like, oh, it's cool, man. These are my boys. And the old lady correctly was like, no, homeless person, you're not allowed to go talk to the Major League Baseball players. Go away, homeless person. What are you doing here? This is probably actually why the Tampa Bay Rays are going cashless, is because John Jaso would come around and they didn't want him around. So I'm going to take John Jaso because in those years, in those sort of like wilderness years, when these guys do pop up and you're like, oh my God, a competent baseball player.
Yes.
He really sticks out. He really sticks out to me. And I love it.
John Jaso retirement headline: Quote, I have a sailboat, so I just want to sail away. End quote.
Yeah, I mean, what more are you asking for out of life than like I made some money and now I got a boat and like see y'all?
He's Captain Ron. That's all he is. He's just Captain Ron in real life.
So after Nathan broke the relief pitcher seal, I'm really terrified that I'm going to lose my pick. This is a divisive franchise player, and I'm going to take my man, Fernando Rodney.
Hell yes.
Like,
whoa,
Rodney forever.
Are you guys both on Rodney forever?
Yes. Deeply.
Man,
not as in I want him on my team if I need to have a save, but just as in I'm very glad he exists.
At this point, my infield
as a personality.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not worried about losing a game at this point. Like we're in the ninth inning with like an 8-run lead. Rodney shoot an arrow.
Mike, I get the sense that you are anti-Team Rodney.
No, my thing about relief pitchers is I like good, efficient relief pitching.
Yeah.
This is what I enjoy. And so I don't enjoy Fernando Rodney.
Yes, yeah. It is the opposite.
I did not enjoy because it was like before Rodney there was Eddie Guardado.
Yeah.
Let's say we used to call him. We'd call him 20 minutes Guardado.
Yes,
because it would take him like he would come in and they'd have like a 3-run lead. And you'd be like, okay, this is great. It's the ninth inning. And then like 20 minutes later, you're like hands on your knees, like pacing the living room because like there's runners on first and third and a run is already in. And you're just like, how are we even going to get out of this? Which that's not what I want out of relief pitching. I want good, efficient, 2 strikeouts and a ground out is how I want my ninth inning to go. And Fernando Rodney was never on board with that program for me.
No.
So I would never grab Fernando Rodney.
Way to go, Dave! You finally did it. You finally broke.
No, it's fine. It's favorites.
Wait till you guys hear my catcher.
It's not meant to be. It's not meant to be the best of the best. I don't hate him the way that I do other players. But I'm certainly glad that era sort of came and went.
He's not your aesthetic.
No, he's really not. When it comes to relief pitching, I really want just like boom, 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 1, 2, 3.
I can agree with that. If he's pitching for my team to win the game, I do love a guy that will. I think it was our last episode actually. Ryan Divish of the Seattle Times said that for Rodney would walk the bases loaded, and then the pitching coach would go out to talk to him, and Fernando would just be like, "Oh yeah, man, I'm just gonna get a double play here and strike out the next guy. Yeah. Be all done." Not worried about it in the slightest. So
yeah, sure, man. Thanks a lot.
All right, at catcher, I'm going to take the easy one. I'm going to actually take Mike Z. Departed. A divisive player, confusing player. I love big dingers, and Mike could do that. Also, I have. I already talked about 2010, which was the most miserable offensive season of baseball I've seen for a team. I think his 2015 is the saddest I've ever felt for an individual player, wherein he hit something like 156 over the course of the entire year. And not only did they not bring in anyone to help him, it was because there literally was nobody that was better than him, even though he was hitting 174, excuse me. He had an OPS of 530 in 386 plate appearances. And like, honestly, it's pretty well documented at this point how he was rushed. He was mishandled. His development was bad. And the fact that
all of them.
Yeah. The fact that he was able to salvage a career after 2015, it's a big credit to him. Him and James Paxton are like the 2 guys from this big blow up where like, man, I really want to see them do really, really well this coming year.
I mean, Paxton went to the Yankees.
It's fine. Mm-hmm. My take now is that the Yankees are good.
Yes.
And I'm gonna root for him.
Yes.
Yes.
I
hope he wins a championship in the same way that like Tino went to the Yankees and they won championships and they love him there. And I think that's great. I hope Mike does really well. There are times that I feel bad for guys who get brought into the Mariners system because our track record is actually bad about bringing dudes in. I remember after Chris Taylor went bonkers. People tweeted at me. They were like, "Oh man, don't you feel so bad that Chris Taylor oh, he was right on the cusp of something and you guys let him go for nothing. And it's like, yeah, but would he have done that if he was a Mariner?
No.
Probably not, right? He went to the Dodgers. The Dodgers said, and do this, and you'll be better. And then he did those things and he was better. And the Mariners didn't have the capacity or the knowledge or the coaching skills to tell Chris Taylor how to be a world-class baseball player.
Yeah, this is my thing with the drafting what if. When they say like they could have picked Francisco Lindor instead of Mike Zunino, and it's like, well, yeah, but then they would have just fucked up Francisco Lindor instead of Mike Zunino. So
exactly, and so I hope, and I do really think that Zunino was hurt in part by Zduriencik trying to save his job, which sucks. I mean, nobody likes some other guy with his own hopes and dreams being thrown into a fucking wood chipper because some old white guy is trying to save his job, even though if he got fired, he'd be fine for the rest of his life. It sucks.
Yep.
So I am on team Mike Zunino is good. I think that he was a valuable player. I think that he was a great defensive catcher, and I think that he would give you some power. And what else do you really need in a catcher?
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting this year because I feel like one of the things that I took away from last year was like, man, this starting pitching should not be as strangely okay as it is all last year. And we've taken out a big factor of why, and a lot of the starting pitchers are the same. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes this year because the new guy's not so good at catching.
Yes.
So
yeah. Okay. So is it my pick?
Yeah, your pick. Sorry.
Okay. So we're down to the dregs.
Yes.
Not the dregs, but like we're down to the point where like you can't pick anybody else. So I have to take a first baseman, and I'm going to. And I'm not going to take Tino Martinez, and I'm not going to take Alvin Davis with respect to those two great Mariner players. And I am going to do the thing that I said I was going to do earlier, which is I'm taking Dae-Ho Lee.
Holy shit.
Damn.
Yeah, I'm not kidding about this. I actually think Dae-Ho Lee was amazing. He was not amazing necessarily in his little like 2-month or 2.5-month spurt there in 2016. He was like a little jolt of fun energy in what was after the 95 team and after the 2001 team. The 2016 Mariners are my favorite Mariners team. Like that collection of like from the manager and the coaches and all the players on down, and what they did in that season and the scope of that season was my favorite. Was my third favorite Mariners season.
Yeah,
and I really just think that when Dae-Ho Lee came in and would just sort of occasionally drop these bombs, he was not bad for like 2.5 months. No. And he was Pig Tiger. And he, everything about him, I'm filled with, like, whenever I think about him, he was an old Korean slugger who was living out his one little dream. And I kind of got into him. I kind of got into his story. I watched old like Korean videos of him. Like there was a thing that was going around the internet of him like just going around and like buying presents for people as like a promotional thing on like Korean TV. Yeah. He just was a great dude, and it was super fun for the very short amount of time that he was on the franchise. And it's the back end of the draft, and it doesn't matter. So I'm taking Dae-Ho Lee.
I like it. I think, I think that's a good pick. I think that I enjoyed my favorite thing about the DHL era, other than just him dropping miracle bombs. He had a thing where he would hit him. Every bomb he hit was gigantic. But the hypothetical game of what's it going to take for him to hit a triple? What has to happen on a baseball field?
An injury.
Yeah. Because I remember he hit a ball into the gap where the center fielder like literally like kicked it or something. And he still ended up at second base, and it was like, oh, okay.
It would require literally a broken leg of an outfielder.
Someone has to get hurt to go down.
Yeah, which we will not root for. No. Even though it would have been hilarious if he had hit David. What's your pick?
I just took Dae-Ho Lee as my first baseman.
I love that's not even that outrageous of a pick, given
it's not that bad in the spectrum of Mariners first baseman.
Yeah, I mean Alvin Davis is.
Yeah, you are sliding
now I feel guilty and bad that I didn't take Alvin Davis.
I'll take Alvin Davis.
The guy. He was okay. Will you take Alvin Davis? Well, we can't.
Agree. You get the comedy pick, and I'll take the meat and potatoes.
Okay.
So I'm going to take at catcher because I mean, we pretty much.
If you take Miguel Olivo, I will hang up on you.
This is a slight to one Mariner. We'll call him great. Not taking him here because I should take Dan Wilson.
Yeah,
but
I'm not.
It's fine. It's fine.
And I'm going to take Henry Blanco because
talk about people that looked homeless while they played baseball.
Yeah, maybe aesthetically, like my favorite backup catcher we've ever had in the franchise.
How old was he that year that he was on the team?
It was his final year, and I think he was 41.
Sounds about right. I feel like
we do this
should always be 41.
He was 41, and he hit those 2 grand slams.
He hit 125 in his year.
Oh, it was 2013. It was a throwaway year.
Well, yes, aren't they all, David?
But his the combination of arm tattoo, hair, and age was like
yes, and yeah, the hair greasiness is what I remember more than anything.
Exactly, he had to oil his hair.
It shimmered. Yeah.
Everything about him.
You aspired to be Henry Blanco.
Seriously.
Okay, I'm gonna take my first baseman. I'm just gonna get out of the way. I want it noted though that although I'm gonna take Alvin Davis because it's actually criminal if he is left off this.
Right. Yeah. I would go back and repick Alvin Davis.
He needs to be picked, but I want to say, and we talked about it before we recorded, Russell Branyan is very tempting on this board because in 2009 he hit I think the highest home runs in Mariner history. He hit them and they just went so far into the air. It was such a delight because he hit those home runs where the outfielder just starts to kind of drift, and then he drifts a little more, and then a little more, and it literally takes like 10 seconds for this all to play out. And then he just kind of weakly jumps at the wall, and the ball lands about 4 rows deep, and you look over there, and there's Branyan just kind of slow motion trotting around first base. Anyway, Russell Branyan gets the honorable mention at first. I'm taking Alvin Davis. It's the first great Mariner position player ever. I think you said, Mike, you started going in 1985. I think that's Davis's rookie year when he won the Rookie of the Year award. No,
right. 84. He won the Rookie of the Year in 84.
84. And then he was also great in 85. I don't remember exactly what the story was behind his quick decline. Because he hit, 283. He was a decent player in 1990 at age 29. He's out of the game by the age of 32. 1 season in California in 1992, and then he was out. But for this franchise, the 80s are pretty much just Alvin Davis and Mark Langston. So got to get him on there.
And Harold Reynolds.
Harold Reynolds.
And Lenny Reynolds.
Harold Reynolds is begrudgingly acknowledged, but we wish that Harold Reynolds would get out of the public eye and talk less.
Right. As Mariner fans, it's weird, especially a Mariner fan from the 80s.
Yes.
I understand when people talk about Harold Reynolds with nothing but just derision dripping off of every word.
Yes.
Because of the way he decided to position himself as a commentator.
Yes.
It's just like, what are you doing? Like, why are you being just a reactionary dickhead?
Yes.
And also, like, he got run out of ESPN, right? Because of some extraordinarily problematic behavior.
Yes.
So it's not great, but as a Mariner fan from the 80s, like, Harold Reynolds was our guy. Like, he was our token all-star there for a couple of years.
Quick statistical oddity looking at Harold Reynolds, and I'm trying to think of how pissed off this would make me in the modern game. In 1988, Harold Reynolds stole 35 bases, but was caught stealing 29 times.
Yeah, that's really bad. Another fun thing about Harold Reynolds is that Ricky Henderson, who is on my team, I drafted him as the Mariners left fielder. He led the American League in stolen bases every single year, except for one, which I think was 1987. It might have been 1988 when Harold Reynolds was at 87. Okay, so Harold Reynolds led the American League in stolen bases in 1987, which broke what would have otherwise been like a 10 or 15 year streak of Ricky Henderson leading the league because Ricky Henderson was hurt.
Yep. All that to say, I'm taking Alvin Davis at first base.
That's fantastic. Alvin Davis is phenomenal. Why are we talking about Harold Reynolds? Sorry about that. Love Alvin Davis. Mr. Mariner.
Yep. Mr. Mariner. To honor him, we'll talk about someone else.
Yeah, that's so funny. Okay,
All right.
so we're down to right field, and we are down to, for me, a relief pitcher. And I am going to take. Oh, this is so crummy. This is really crummy. Because I love Kazuhiro Sasaki.
Yeah.
Because he's in many ways my aesthetic ideal when it comes to a relief pitcher. He would just come in and get 3 outs and walk away. Like that's the way the game would end, with like some strikeouts and some ground balls, and he'd walk off the field. Also, it's terrible that nobody's taken Edwin Diaz, because he's arguably the greatest relief pitcher the franchise has ever seen.
Yep.
But if you want to talk to my heart, I'm drafting Norm Charlton.
Wow.
I love it. The sheriff.
Very in.
Because he's the sheriff.
Yep.
And in that 95 season, which is the most magical thing that I've ever been a part of, like as a baseball fan, Bobby Ayala was a disaster. Anecdotally, emotionally, a disaster. And that team couldn't hold leads. That team couldn't end games. That team constantly let it get away from them until we brought Charlton in and put him in the closer role. I mean, we talk a lot, as sort of like smart intellectual baseball fans, about how closing a game doesn't matter and anybody should be able to do it. But if you get somebody who can really come in and end a game that you're leading, it's weirdly overrated and underrated at the same time. And the fact that Norm Charlton came into that 95 team and started ending games with the Mariners in the lead was, I think it was one of the little teeny tiny decisive factors that actually propelled the team to the playoffs for the first time. And so
also the underrated 1-win contribution as a relief pitcher on the 2001 team.
Of course, yeah, sure, yeah, they brought him back. He's a great part. He's a great part of the team.
And then eventually bullpen coach.
Yes, he's been all over the place. I agree. He's like the catalyzing agent of the 1995 Magic. Like, he's not the Magic itself, but he's kind of what made it possible.
Yeah, he's one of the things that brought it to a close.
Yeah,
him and Vince Coleman.
God, I love Vince Coleman.
I'm in a tough spot I have a DH and a pitcher left. And at DH, I was planning to take this person who we already touched on. So I'm just going to do it. Or no, I'm not, actually. I was saving my DH spot for Russell Branyan. But since he's been discussed, and I feel like this player deserves to be amongst the greats we've already chatted.
Ken Phelps.
Not traditionally known as a DH, but did DH a few times. I'm going to take Dustin Ackley.
Holy shit, David.
You just took Dustin Ackley as your DH?
I mean, what? I'm not, you dumbass. What did you do? Why did you do that?
I'm somehow writing Ackley DH.
You were more excited about him being back with this team than anything else that has happened this offseason.
Well, it's like, sure, I could take Russell Branyan. I could take Jose Vidro. I mean,
you could take Ken Phelps.
You could take a good player.
Dustin Ackley had the 1 year in left field. I'll take him.
I think that you can make a case that if we're going to insist on doing this, I would say that I think that Dustin Ackley's story arc is a quintessential Mariner tragedy. And
it is set up for redemption this year. I'm calling it.
That would be amazing. I mean, somebody threw out on Twitter, like, I was following that. It's like, oh, what's the one prospect that broke your heart? And it's like, there's only like the one.
Yeah,
really answer to that, which is Ackley. I mean,
yep.
That's why I'm drafting him.
I think he might be the last player to ever, like, again, going back to the fact that, like, you get older, you have kids, you have a whole life. It becomes harder for baseball to make or break you, like, emotionally. But Ackley broke my heart.
Yep. He was at his debut game, and as such, I will ride or die Dustin Ackley.
You just want Ackley on your team, and you don't have another place to stick him, so you're drafting him.
If Randy Wynn wasn't in left field, that's where I would put Dustin. Yeah,
just the picture of him running into the wall face first. The ball.
No, the slowest home run rob of all time.
That's right. I forgot about that. Yeah. it would have been a lot easier with Dustin if he had just never been good, but that we got teased with that debut half season where he was like a 3-win player in 80 games. And then
it's one of those things too where like you get the same thing happened a little bit with Jesus Montero for different reasons.
It's for
just like you get the prospect people and the scouts and the projectors who are like, oh well, if nothing else, like he's gonna hit, like don't even worry about that. Like maybe his glove might be a little suspect, but like don't worry, he's gonna hit. And so you're filled with visions of Dustin Ackley being like a poor man's Wade Boggs for like 15 years. Like that's what I was waiting for. Like he was never going to have home run power, but like 50 doubles year in and year out. Like, yeah, I'm here for it. I'm ready. Like I can't wait. He's going to be one of the best players in franchise history. And it never happened. It just never happened. I don't know what else to say.
Yeah. Kyle Seager's a miracle. I'm going to,
I'm sorry. You know what my theory about Kyle Seager is that they didn't think that he was going to amount to anything. They didn't think he was going to be a prospect, so they didn't pay any attention to him. And so he was just allowed to do his own thing, and so he prospered. And if anybody they were like, "Ooh, you're going to be good. Let's focus on you," became Dustin Ackley.
He's the pinball wizard.
Yeah.
Okay. I think there's something to that because everything they touch turns to shit. I feel bad that for my second to last pick in center field, I'm taking Goody because he is one of my favorite Mariners of the past decade and probably the ultimate alternate reality that I'm interested in exploring as a Mariner fan is what if Franklin Gutierrez doesn't get sick with whatever malady he ended up being diagnosed with and is a 4-win center fielder for that dark era from 2010 through 2013. How different does the franchise look? Because he was an amazing player, and also I'm so thankful to him for basically single-handedly rescuing the 2015 season for me with that just incredible half season where he came back ripped and just slugged like 640 or something over a half year. So in two different ways, he is one of my favorite players of the last decade. So I'm taking Goody.
That's a good pick.
I think that's I feel good value towards the end of the draft there.
Yeah, that is, and like it's one of those positions where like I got Cameron and like Dave got King Griffey Jr. Right. So the fact that Gutierrez fell to the very last pick is not.
And you also have
an indictment of Franklin Gutierrez as a player.
No, you have 2016's Leonis too is floating out there. That was a fun player, but not very good.
Oh, but so good. Like when you remember when Leonis Martin got hurt and then Nori Aoki was put into center field.
Oh yes, vividly.
And then Leonis Martin came back and I can't imagine actually a sharper contrast between players because Martin was like Carlos Beltran in that he just had that natural graceful speed and direction where it's like he would just run in the direction of the ball as fast as he could and catch it, and that was it. And Nori Aoki was like in between every pitch he was doing that sort of company picnic game where you put your head on the baseball bat and spin around in circles and then you have to run towards a tree and whoever gets there first wins. And those would be like the routes that Aoki would take, is he would just run around, he'd just spun himself around in circles while the pitch was being thrown. And so you watch Martin play and you're like, wow, this is graceful and amazing. And then you watch Aoki play and you're like, oh my God, this is a catastrophe. So I actually have a great, Leonis Martin was actually on my board I probably would have taken him actually over Gutierrez because the 1 year that Gutierrez was amazing, that 1 year that he had might possibly be the greatest defensive year of a center fielder in history. I think I was actually in and out of Mariners baseball that year.
Sure. Yeah.
So I feel a little less of a connection to him. I actually probably would have taken Martin.
Yeah, that's fine.
God, he was good. Anyway, God, what am I left with? Right field.
Are you going to?
So I will take Jay Buhner.
Okay.
Oh, he makes it.
I didn't know if he was make that.
Yeah, of course I'll take Jay Buhner.
Okay.
I have issues maybe with Jay Buhner as a person. I've heard him say some things on Mariners broadcasts that lead me to believe that maybe myself and Jay Buhner wouldn't necessarily get along in real life.
You might not be best friends.
Yeah, we might not be best friends. We might actually be on the other side of things. But man, Jay Buhner, was
You getting squishy?
no, he was awesome. He was just awesome.
Watching him try to swear in the 1995 video is still one of my favorite things.
Yeah, and his helmet that was just always covered in pine tar and tobacco spit.
Yeah.
We used to when we used to go to games in the Kingdom, we would sit in right field. That was kind of like the family spot where we would go because you could, for a couple of bucks, you could have like entire sections to yourself. And on the AstroTurf in the Mariners right field, there were huge deposits of discolored AstroTurf because of him just standing out there and spitting tobacco juice all over right field. This is like a real thing. He'd stand here for a while, he'd stand there for a while, and there would just be puddles, like discolored areas. And I mean, what are you going to say about Jay Buhner? He's up. Is he in the Mariners Hall of Fame? Have we put him in the Mariners Hall of Fame yet?
Yes.
Okay, of course he is. Okay, so I'll take Jay Buhner as my right fielder.
Yeah, that's also great value because he's actually probably overrated in Mariner history, but one hell of a late 90s power hitter.
Oh, one thing I do want to, I just remember this, that so Jay Buhner had this really weird distinction where he was the first player to hit 40 home runs in 3 consecutive seasons. Like he did this in I think 95, 96, and 97.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he did that, he was the first player to hit 40 or more home runs in 3 consecutive seasons since like Ralph Kiner in the 50s. In the 50s, like Ralph Kiner had done this because you look at like Willie Mays and Hank Aaron would have these years where they would hit like 39 home runs or 38 home runs, or like, Hank Aaron was just like 35 home runs like year in and year out without ever really peaking. So he was the first guy to actually hit 40 or more home runs in 3 consecutive seasons. And then, of course, like immediately after that, Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa are hitting 60 home runs year in and year out.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
40,
for a very brief moment.
4 in 96 and 40 again in 97. So very much one of those like just quirky statistical things.
Exactly.
Great value at the last pick. David, you have to pick a starting pitcher.
I know. Man, this
is not hard. There's quite a few.
Yeah.
It might not be hard, but I'm gonna do a sentimental pick off of what could have been. What's that?
Is it Dustin Ackley again?
No.
It's Dustin Ackley now. You're starting pitcher.
3 different people I want to fill this with, none of whom are. Well, I mean, like Paxton, sure, right? Not going to do it.
No, there are bad picks here, but I think it's unlikely you will make one.
I'm actually going to go with the season we got of Michael Pineda.
Ooh,
what could have been?
Really?
I like that.
Yeah, I think if he stays here, that becomes an all-time Mariner great.
He was great in that one season. What was that, 2011?
I think so. Yes.
So you're leaving Jamie Moyer, Freddie Garcia, Mark Langston all off the board.
I am. And the other one I really wanted to draft just because loved him was Bobby Madrish.
Oh, I loved him too. And then Bob Melvin killed him.
Yes.
Made him throw like 150 pitches in this last game of the year. Pineda is also attached to like one of the last great Dave Niehaus audio clips. So he'll always have a fond memory. The stank there in spring training. It's just, God, man, I miss Dave so much. All right, I have to go last, huh? I have a left fielder, and I am not going to hesitate. I'm going to take Vince Coleman because the rest of left field is just garbage. And
that's amazing. You're drafting Vince Coleman. That's so cool.
I'm drafting Vince Coleman because
we in Mariners left field, we're drafting Vince Coleman and Ricky Henderson. That's great.
It's not a very deep pool there, Mike.
You are leaving Ruben Sierra on the board.
I understand this, but Ruben Sierra and I have issues that go back to that same 1995 season when he was with the Yankees. So he is fine, but he's going to stay there. Vince Coleman is there for the just like same thing as anybody else in the 95 season, the 6-week spark of energy. He hit the grand slam in some mid-September game, which I think is the same game that Alex Diaz hit a 3-run home run in. This is the time when the Mariners were winning games based on Vince Coleman and Alex Diaz home runs. And he was just incredible. He was like, just for that 6 weeks, I remember him. And also like just the tip of the iceberg of a pretty amazing bygone era of the 80s when like 7 guys would steal 100 bases a year for the entire time in St. Louis. So I'm taking Vince Coleman, and we've done it.
Oh my God.
We have drafted.
We drafted our teams.
I think that the exercise is successful because I don't know if my team is the best, but it's my favorite. So I feel good about it.
So who do I got?
David, you're definitely winning the most games.
Oh yeah, this team is built to win.
Actually, I don't know. Mike's
well, good luck trying to get through the 9th with Fernando Rodney, and then you got Ackley as your DH and Henry Blanco at catcher. So
that is an incredible battery at the end, David.
It's a real stars and scrubs team you got going on there.
Yeah, that's a very Mariner roster that you've built, David. You have 3 peak Hall of Famers at the top, and then just shit at the bottom.
I'm
man. Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say I really Jerry DePoto'd this.
Towards the end, yeah, you really got Jerry DePoto there at the end.
Okay, so there was going to be obviously somebody who got hosed off this list, and I feel like the fact that none of us drafted Jamie Moyer is not great. But I got Randy Johnson and Felix Hernandez, and let's see, who did David take as his starting pitcher instead of Jamie Moyer?
Yeah, Michael Pineda.
Michael Pineda.
Yeah.
So maybe that was up to you, man.
If David has made you angry, it's that's what he does.
So that's too bad. I think Moyer is the one guy, but you took McLemore, so like that's good.
Yeah, over Cora. I mean, we didn't even talk about Cora.
Yeah, another overrated mayor. Well, man, we're like at 2 hours on this, aren't we?
We're fine.
It's fine. They'll listen.
They'll listen.
They're still here.
Okay.
Still here. Don't worry.
Great. Who else Mark Langston is underrated, I think. He was really great in the 80s. We already talked about him. I'm trying to think of anybody else.
He too is he's not a Hall of Famer.
Right.
He's in that sort of like Brett Saberhagen, like Dave Stieb, and unfortunately Felix Hernandez realm of being like phenomenally good in his peak and then just like not quite doing enough to get into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
But he's like a 50-win guy.
Yeah. His peak.
Mark Langston was phenomenally good.
Yep.
What's amazing and speaks to the lack of depth in the franchise position is there's a legitimate case to say we should have drafted Logan Morrison.
Man, I can't decide what to say. Is first base sadder than left field? I can't decide.
I think so, because at least left field has some personalities.
I feel like first base should be easier. Like, it shouldn't be so hard to get good players at compared to left field.
Yeah, it's funny how much people talk about how easy it is to just grab some slugger and stick him at first base, and yet the Seattle Mariners are living proof that actually it's maybe harder than that for some reason.
They probably acquired and then promptly traded away who would have been the 3rd best first baseman in the last 20 years.
Yeah,
and
Carlos
Santana. Yeah, we got another one. I'm telling you. The 2019 Mariners are not going to be good, but they got Edwin Encarnacion to walk the parrot around. Jay Bruce going to be some dingers. It's Domingo Santana is going to hit dingers. It's going to be fun. It's just not going to be good.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it, but it's not going to be good.
Speaking of here for it, we should wrap it up. Mike, we are so thankful to you for joining us all the way from Paris for this long. Really quick, in case somehow somebody listens to our podcast and doesn't know what you're doing, you want to plug Revolutions really quick?
Yes, I write and produce a program called Revolutions. It is a podcast about the great political revolutions in history. I'm currently hip deep in the middle of the Mexican Revolution, but I've covered most of the great political revolutions in world history. And before that, I did a 5-year stint on a show called The History of Rome, which told the entire history of the Roman Empire from its founding in 753 BC until it collapsed, at least in the West, in 476 AD. And then I wrote a book called The Storm Before the Storm, the beginning of the end of the Roman Republic, which came out in 2017 and made it on the New York Times bestseller list. And I am currently writing a biography of Citizen Lafayette, which will be out in the spring of 2021.
You can also follow Mike at Mike Duncan on Twitter, where he will periodically peek in and out to yell about Howard Schultz and or the political climate of our nation.
Right. Howard Schultz is going to try to run for president, and I hope it destroys him.
Yeah, so the last couple times we've had
I hope he's ruined for the rest of his life for even attempting this.
we've got this new thing where we've trolled our last couple guests by making up sponsors specifically to agitate them. And I almost had David write we got sponsored by the Howard Schultz for President campaign. I couldn't go that.
Howard Schultz Super PAC.
The Howard Schultz Super PAC. Yeah, we're all there. Mike, this is awesome, man. We're really, really big fans of your work, and I really am envious of your ability to live so far away that you can so diligently ignore the Mariners if you need to, but then pop back in when you want to. So kudos.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks so much for joining us, man. Cut.
Damn.
All right, stopping podcast.